Hey guys, welcome to this week's podcast episode. Happy New Year. I've got a fantastic guest for you today, Craig Cooke. He's the author of Business Kung Fu. He's got a fantastic slant on business strategies and Eastern philosophy. And I'm excited to talk to entrepreneurs such as Craig on the show, get their insights. So, Craig, welcome.
Yeah. Hi, Dr. Liu. Thank you for having me today. Happy New Year. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah. And all my friends call me Chris, so please do the same.
Okay. All right, will do. Thank you,
Yeah.
Chris.
Yeah, I love starting these innovative conversations with setting the stage, your experiences, and then delving right into this exciting conversation.
Okay. Yeah, so the quick background on me is I started a digital marketing agency way back in the 20th century, I like to say, 1996. Yeah, so I'm definitely dating myself, but yeah, digital first company back in 1996 before digital first was even a term. And really was doing digital transformation work before that was a term, really. So started working with marketing independent music online. And it was interesting because it was a neat idea, but at the time there was only 30 million people worldwide online. There was no broadband, there was no MP3s, and everyone was afraid to buy things online. And we had a website that people could come discover independent music artists, learn about them, listen to song samples, and buy their CDs through a secure server way back in 1996. Um, yeah, so struggling with that for a couple of years, we adapted and evolved to focus more on businesses doing website design because of all the skills that we had developed from that, and then started developing other capabilities, CD-ROM development, email marketing, search marketing, et cetera. Built out a suite of core services and continued to evolve and started working with bigger companies, middle market to large enterprise companies, rebranded, repositioned ourselves a number of times, and built it, was on the Inc. 5000 list of fastest growing private companies 5 years in a row. Also achieved best places and top places to work during that time frame as well, about 4 years in a row. And eventually sold the company in 2019. Then I stayed on for 3 years as CEO, and then last year left. And at the beginning of, yeah, in March of 2021, I believe, or 22, no, 22, sorry. Now we're in the new year. It's I got to get my mind reconfigured here for the new year. Anyways, took the rest of that year off, and then last year, at the beginning of the year, started doing consulting work. And there's a number of things that I do. And I just released my first book, Business Kung Fu, in mid-November. So excited about that and excited to share.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And you achieved remarkable success with your digital marketing company. Yeah,
Thank you.
I definitely remember those times back in '96. You had to go go to the get buy CDs, you had to go to Blockbuster, rent VHS, you had to, turn it
Yeah.
in, yeah, but now it's I definitely remember those days.
Yeah, it's funny to share a quick funny story. One day, maybe a couple years ago, my wife and I we were sitting with our kids, and Netflix or one of those services wasn't working, and they were getting all frustrated. And we're like, "You guys don't understand. We used to have to go to a Blockbuster back in the day, and wait for movies because sometimes they'd be out, and then we'd be standing at the line seeing if their movie would come in." They're like, "What? You had to drive to go get a movie?" You're like,
Yeah.
it's funny. Yeah, how the younger generation, they were born with the internet. Yeah, I like to say um, we helped build the internet, Generation X, and then Generation Y really grew up with the internet, and Z was born with it, totally digital and native. So it's interesting to see that progression of mindset.
Yeah. Yeah,
Mhm.
it brings back so many good memories. Kind of looking back, what were some of the most significant challenges you faced in the early days of the internet, and how did you overcome them?
Yeah, so there was many challenges. So yeah, one of the big things at the very beginning, really limited resources. I started the company with a couple of friends that I met in college, and I was 25 at the time, so just a couple years out. And we just started with $1,300 a piece in a computer, and it was a tough go. Just we didn't know any. The internet was so new, so we really didn't know anyone in the industry. There was no connections and limited financial resources, and it was a really big struggle. The first 5 years were really brutal.
Uh-huh.
Just working a ton of hours, 80, 90 hour a week, no vacations, working holidays, just doing what you had to do. That's just what you have to do.
Yeah.
And just made a lot of mistakes too. So it was just I think one of those biggest challenges was those first 5 years, which is typical for a lot of companies, and just making a lot of silly mistakes and limited resources.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So kind of talk about your book, Business Kung Fu, and you integrate principles of martial arts into business strategies. And can you share how this unique approach has influenced your success and the key lessons entrepreneurs in the audience can learn from it?
Sure, absolutely. Happy to. So, business kung fu, the reason why it's even called that, because the concept is taking lessons and principles that I learned from studying Chinese kung fu when I was younger. I studied from age 17 to 25 intensely. And then I started my company at 25, and then I really just went all in, just obsessively all in with the company. So kind of started caring less about my health, which we can talk about, which is an interesting lesson in and of itself. However, I took the principles that I learned from Chinese Kung Fu and applied it to how I thought about the company, my mindset, discipline, perseverance, also even structurally, how I thought about the company, about creating like an integrated system, an integrated offering as opposed to just one thing. That was the system I studied was a complete fighting system.
Uh-huh.
So I wanted the same, a total integrated, complete system of services for my company rather than just being like a one-trick pony type thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's quite quite interesting. And then so where did this fascination with Eastern philosophy come from, and kind of how did you learn to incorporate it? Why did you learn?
Yeah.
Just curious.
Yeah, I remember uh, Bruce Lee, Jackie Chan in the TV series Kung Fu. I was really fascinated with all that when I was a kid, like 10 years old, and would see that stuff. And I was just always intrigued and fascinated. I wanted to study martial arts early on, but my mother wouldn't let me. There's a couple cousins that lived with my two sisters and I. Um, so there was five of us, and one of my cousins, I think he had studied karate or something, and I don't remember. This is what my mom told me. He went around the neighborhood beating up kids, so she
Oh,
didn't want me to do that. They were older,
yeah.
and she didn't want me to do that. At least that's what she told me. And but fast forward to when I was 17, my mom had a small restaurant, and she had hired a chef from New York City. He had moved out to California, and he was new to the area. And at the time I was a waiter. I started working when I was 10, washing dishes, and then I became a busboy at 13, and then a waiter at 16. So here I am, 17, and my mom hires a chef, Lyndon Cleghorn. Cleghorn is his name, really wonderful gentleman. And through a conversation, the subject of Kung Fu came up, and he said that he knew Kung Fu. And I was like, whoa, my eyes got really big. Really? You know Kung Fu? He's all, yeah. He's all, why, you want to learn? I was like, yes, yes, yes. So I asked my mom out of respect, of course, and she's fine. She wasn't too thrilled about it, but I really wanted to. And I was just had this fascination with it, just this innate fascination with it. So, and even also, I remember, I think when I was in first grade, I did get bullied a little bit, and I remember thinking, yeah, I never want that to happen again, right? So,
Mm.
yeah, that was in the back of my mind as well. And I didn't study it to go around beating up people. It was just I was intrigued by it and by all aspects of it. And right when I started, he gave me a pamphlet. The system that I started with was Alan Lee's Kung Fu Wushu out of New York City,
Uh-huh.
and he had a nice pamphlet that had some philosophy and principles of Taoism, and I was just reading. I was just like intrigued, and it was profound for me. It was a profound mindset shift for me.
Uh-huh.
Like things are only hard if you make them hard, and I was like, wow,
Yeah.
so true. And it was just this mindset shift for me, and um, so I was really intense with that, and I always just had a deep respect and fascination for Chinese culture and the Taoist philosophies and so forth. Fast forward to when in the midst of growing the company, I was 44, 2014, I met a Qigong instructor or a practitioner. And that was a game changer for me, which we can get into more details as well.
Uh-huh.
But that started a whole other journey into Eastern philosophy, Chinese culture, with more of the medical Qigong. I learned some martial Qigong from when I was 17 to 25 and some health aspects like eight silk weaving. But um, this was a whole other world, and we can talk more about that if you like. But and I'm still very, very into it. So yeah, just it's been a wonderful journey, and a lot of the principles that I really adopted and really helped me a great deal in my company.
Yeah. And then which I actually I find this Eastern philosophy and just kind of spirituality very fascinating, and just and how you can apply these, and you have extensive experience in both business and energetic practices, and kind
Mhm.
of elaborate what are energetic practices and how you believe principles of Chinese energy medicine can be applied to enhance leadership and productivity in the corporate world.
Right, great question. Yes, so on my website, I label it energetic practices just to kind of have it be just a general term, right? That people could be like, oh, interesting, strike curiosity. So I've studied Chinese medical Qigong, and that's a energy medicine modality that's thousands of years old. Cultures from around the world have their methods of working with energy. Um, and they're very similar in how they work with the energetic anatomy. We all have this energetic anatomy, just like we have physical anatomy, we have an energetic anatomy as well.
Mhm.
And there's different cultures have different ways to organize, label, classify, and systematize working with energy that's within the body and outside the body.
Uh-huh.
The Chinese system, yeah, with medical qigong, what I highly respect with it, it's the Chinese culture has done an outstanding job of experimenting and documenting working with energy and creating protocols to address various conditions um, and to have certain outcomes. And qigong, there's three general pillars or systems. There's the martial, there's the medical, and then there's the spiritual. So I'm interested in all three, and I'm actually right now studying. I'm enrolled in a doctorate program for Chinese energy medicine, that's being taught by a well-known, respected master in the space, Dr. Jerry Allen Johnson, and it's a martial, medical, and spiritual system that he teaches all in one. So it's super cool. Uh, so how does that relate to the business world and the corporate world? To get to your other second half of your question there. One, the demands in the corporate world and running the business, whether it's a small business or you're an executive in a medium to large company, there's incredible demands that are placed upon you, which creates a ton of stress, pressure, right?
Uh-huh.
And that affects your body in a multitude of ways. I mean, everyone has probably heard all kinds of different reports and studies of how stress affects the body.
Yeah.
Well, let's get into that a little deeper. There's all kinds of varying emotions that affect the body,
Uh,
right? So, uh, um, it's part of our energetic anatomy, what all of the five yin organs. So the heart, the lungs, the liver, the spleen, the kidneys. And there's the virtues of those organs, which you can equate those to like positive aspects. And
uh-huh.
then there's the emotions, which are more considered more of the negative aspects. So, for example, if there happens to be someone through the very angry, very in the liver organ. That's the repository for that. So over time, what happens as we have these negative emotions or these positive and negative interactions with people, places, situations, when we have these negative emotions, though, especially, they create these energetic clusters, right?
Uh-huh.
There's the Chinese like to have things in sets of threes, which I like a lot as well. So there's the spirit body, the energy body, and the physical body. The spirit affects the energy body affects the physical body, but it goes the other direction as well. So the spirit, our thoughts and emotions, affects the energetic matrix. That's kind of like the template, the energetic template for
Uh-huh.
the body. And over time, these energetic clusters that form, as it's consistent, persistent, they get denser in a sense, and they collect more, and eventually they have an influence on the physical tissues of the body.
Mm.
So in that example with the liver, that could manifest as some sort of physical condition over time that could be in the liver itself, or maybe the gallbladder, because that's the yang organ related to the yin organ, or one of the channel areas that could just manifest in some sort of physical ailment, some sort of chronic condition. So with the energetic work, you want to cut that stuff off at the pass. There's three aspects with when you're doing Qigong work, whether you're doing the work yourself with a variety of Qigong exercises, or you're going to go see a practitioner that administers Qi and does the energy work with you. And that's purging, tonifying, and regulating. Purging is getting rid of all those negative energetic clusters that are forming. So it's kind of like a car wash for the body, or a tune-up. If you know your vehicle needs maintenance, right? Your car, you've got to take it in for a tune-up and oil change and all that stuff. Well, same thing. Our energetic anatomy needs that maintenance as well. So you can clear all that stuff out. That's that purging, get it out of there. And then once that space has been created, you want to fill it, tonify, strengthen with the more positive aspects of energy to um, uh, so that space that's been created doesn't get filled again with negative energy. And then the regulation is balancing. So you really get in this state of homeostasis with the body. And as you do this work, it's very interesting. It's really a big game changer for me. I know I'm kind of talking a lot here, but I'll say this one point. In 2014, I was really out of center with myself, really, really off balance, and just wasn't myself, like my old self. And when I came across my first Qigong instructor, I went to see him and had a great session with him. So I'd go see him once a month and then over a period of 6 months, at the end of that time period, I found myself noticing that, wow, I feel better. I'm much more balanced, much more centered. And then at that time, he asked me, "Do you want to learn how to do this?" And I was like, "Yes," without any hesitation whatsoever. That was the impact it had for me. There's all kinds of modalities out there and different ways that people can um, deal with the stress and other aspects. But Qigong is a really detailed, comprehensive system of working with the whole entire being. So it's great.
Mm. Yeah. Really fascinating because it reminds me of this book that I've read. It's called The Body Keeps a Score, and it's kind of talking about where these basically these traumas, emotional traumas get stored in different areas. It could, lead to, strokes, heart attacks, cancer, all of that. So I've always been fascinating. How is Qigong different than Reiki? Is it very similar to that?
So it's similar, just like I mentioned, that various cultures from around the world have their methods, their modalities of working with energy. So Reiki is the Japanese system,
Uh-huh.
and Qigong is the Chinese system.
Uh-huh.
That's the quickest way to differentiate the two. But
Oh,
similar in a sense, and working with energy. It's a form of energy medicine.
yeah.
Um, Similar but different.
Yeah.
Yeah. And your comment about the body storing all these negative traumas, yes, exactly. That's part of the underlying theory is through these interactions with people, places, situations, positive and negative. Some of these negative experiences can be extremely traumatic. And what we tend to do is we tend to stuff all that inside ourselves
Oh,
rather than expressing and discharging and releasing all that, right?
yeah.
So it gets stuffed inside, and then based on the emotions, it can then get stored in the particular organ. So, for example, grief, like so the loss that causes a ton of grief, which could then lead to depression. That's stored in the lungs.
Mm.
Uh,
Mm.
yeah, so over time there could be a variety of issues that are, related to the lungs that come about. Um, Cancer is a big one. Actually, Dr. Johnson, who runs the doctorate program I enrolled in, that's what he's really well known for, is treating cancer patients successfully, like thousands of patients. It's pretty amazing what he's done.
Yeah.
Um, and and from what he's taught is that uh, a lot of times, I mean, it's a very multivariant factor disease,
Mhm.
that there can be all kinds of causes, such as environmental, with pollutants, toxins in our environment. Um, and then there's also like the emotional stuff that over time, like I mentioned before, how I explained it before, over time, that those specific emotions uh, could express itself as some sort of a physical type of cancer. So, for example, if there's someone grows up and there's a lot of, say a female has a lot of father issues for whatever reason, or male authority issues, and over time there's just a lot of grief, depression, sadness that develops. Well, that can manifest as some sort of like cyst, like breast cancer. That's kind of a typical thing that could happen there.
Yeah.
um, and it's based on emotional trauma that is stored and never released. So that's another part of the work, is to bring up these things, get that energetic uh, clusters released out of the body before it even becomes one of those conditions. But if those conditions do exist,
Mhm.
the work, the medical qigong work, also addresses those physical issues as well.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, it's what you were describing also, like as we age, we kind of set in our ways, we become a lot energetically heavier, and then but like if you look at like my nieces and nephews, they're like 3-year-old, 8-year-old, they're light, they're just very light, kind
Yeah.
of but then like us, we go through life accumulating all this emotional heaviness, and then so we're just as we get older, we're just like,
Yes.
yeah, but very.
Right. If we could be like children, right? Carefree and happy and joyful and playful, and just what they can do with their physical bodies being so pliable, and yeah, we get weighed down, and all those stress and pressures, especially like business owners and executives, so forth. A lot of demands and obligations, responsibilities. So there's a lot of tightness that resides in the shoulders area. So it's just that heaviness. It affects the body. You can see it and you can feel it, just like you described.
Yeah.
So it's important to have some sort of practice. For me, Qigong was a game changer. And but I do advocate that it's great to have a mix of things. So, the big three for me are Qigong, martial arts still, and then also strength training,
Mm.
working with, uh, and then, nutrition is also big. But in my book, I mentioned about the importance of taking care of yourself to be of service to self, so you can be of service to others. It's
Yeah.
a big lesson I learned. Um, right around 2015, yeah, maybe 2015, 2016, I learned that I had a challenge with diabetes,
Oh.
actually.
Oh.
And actually, had it full on.
Mm.
Just in my mind, mindset, like my book, Business Kung Fu, essentially is a mindset book, geared towards entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
So when I heard that, oh, okay, that's sucks. I didn't expect it to get it this early because it runs in my family. But okay, all right. Well, I want to beat this, and my doctor is very cool, naturopath doctor. She's awesome. She said, well, you can beat it naturally. Yeah. Because I said, I don't want to take any pharmaceutical medicines. Did a lot of work with pharmaceutical companies, and yeah, I'm just not into it. And she said, well, you can do it naturally. It's just going to take a lot of work and discipline. I said, oh, that's good. I'm disciplined. I can do it. So yeah, I've reversed it. It's a lifestyle change, and I just had to need that kick in the butt to really
Yeah.
realize, yeah, I was so into my business and running it, and I let myself go, and
Mm.
it affected me and my productivity and effectiveness because I was so tired in the afternoon. I'd get home at night and I would crash after dinner. I'd like fall asleep on the couch for a couple hours, and I never used to do that before.
Yeah.
And foggy brain, all these things. And then when I discovered this, oh wow, this makes sense. Um, so yeah, it's this from 2014 to now, it's just been a journey of really getting back on track of taking care of myself. And I feel like I did in my 20s.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah, when
wow.
I was at optimal health. Yeah, just it's and again, I really emphasize it's super important because in order to be of service to others, you got to take care of yourself. So my saying, like in my book, I say you need to be of service to self so you can be of service to others for a lifetime.
Yeah. 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 I love that. How can people find out more about you?
Well, I'm on LinkedIn, so LinkedIn/in Craig Cooke. That's Cook with the E at the end. There's also my website, c squared pro.io. That's the letter C, and then squared, spelled out, and then .io. And then my book here, Business Kung Fu, is available on Amazon and paperback, hardcover, and Kindle format.
Yeah.
And yeah, yeah, the book is my first one, and hopefully others to come. But it's a great book. Again, mindset book geared for entrepreneurs, but business professionals in general. But there's people that have been giving me feedback that even like high school students or college students that are trying to figure their life out, that it could be really good for them too, which kind of made sense because martial arts was a game changer for me when I was 17 because I wasn't on the greatest path,
Yeah.
and it got me moving in a real positive direction.
Yeah. Yeah, for all the audience out there listening, Greg, for coming on and sharing these very, very innovative concepts. And be sure to follow him on all of his social media links, which will be in the show notes. And with that, thanks so much for coming onto the podcast.
Oh, thank you so much, Chris. I'm really happy to be here. Thank you so much.